So we're talking with Katrina and Wybrow today about aged care. In our minds, we're never going to get old or infirm. However, we're all going to get old if we're lucky enough. And it's usually our family that are left to deal with the complex aged care system. And we're here talking with Katrina today about aged care.
Yes, thank you for that. It is a complex area. It is composed of two parts. One is the medical part, where an ACAT assessment is done. This is usually organised by your doctor. Not always, you can initiate that yourself. And the second part is the financial part, where a Centrelink assessment is done of your income and assets, determining how much you contribute towards the cost of your care.
Okay, so you've said the doctor organises the ACAT. Why is it more beneficial to get the doctor to perform the ACAT assessment? Or
In my experience, and this is only anecdotal, it is often quicker if a doctor initiates the ACAT assessment and the ACAT team respond very quickly, because often those are initiated by crises.
yeah, so the conversation we had prior was you were talking, it seemed to carry more urgency, the doctor applying rather than the family members.
Yes, I think it does. I think it carries more weight. So one of the most important things is getting the income and assets assessment right. Some people come to me after they've already submitted their income and assets to Centrelink, and that's really most unfortunate, because often we can do our best work in rearranging people's financial affairs prior to doing the Centrelink assessment. We can still do work after that time, but the best work is done beforehand. I think it's also good to understand exactly what the fees are going to be, because that will determine what kind of facility you can afford as well, which obviously can come down to budgetary constraints.
Okay, so how do you make a difference if someone approaches you to manage their aged care navigation?
Well, I go through the fees so people understand the fees. People find the fees quite confusing. So the first fee is a refundable accommodation deposit, known as the RAD for short, and this is an upfront payment that you make for the cost of the room. It's given back when the person leaves the aged care facility, but it is the price of the room. The next fee is the basic daily care fee. That's set at 85% of the age pension rate, and everyone pays this. The next fee, and this is the fee that I can, if you like, influence the most, and that is the means tested fee. Now, why this is quite important is that those means tested fees cap out, and that cap rate changes every year. So sometimes it can be better to cap out cash flow, paying that extra money, which is around 61,000 now, capped out at about 25,000 per year, and then those fees drop down quite considerably. Sometimes if people have very high cash flow, it's better to pay an accommodation payment instead of an upfront payment. That's like paying rent. The money never comes back to you, but if you have a very high CSS pension, that might be a better way to make the payments than actually an upfront payment. So it's a very individual decision. The other thing that you need to know is there are extra services fees for some facilities, and they are called extra services facilities. This is a very important question to actually ask the facility when you are deciding where you want to go. Now, the extra services fee can be for choice of meals, wine at mealtime, which I'd probably choose if I were going into care, but you pay for that.
Creature comforts.
Creature comforts, and sometimes those facilities are much more upmarket. But if cost is an issue, then you certainly would possibly not be choosing an extra services fee. But if you can afford it, it may be one of the things that might make you happier, if you like, in care, to have those extra services available to you. It's an individual choice.
Okay, so you're talking a bit about facilities. How do you choose a facility?
Well, I think it's a very subjective experience, but the sorts of things I would look at are how many carers can you see attending to residents?
So carers to attendance ratios and things like that.
Yes, yes, and you get a bit of a sense of that when you attend the facility. I'd look at general cleanliness, the atmosphere, are the staff friendly and welcoming? What is the general happiness level of the residents in that facility? Those sorts of things would come into my reckoning. The other thing is, if a relative of mine had a dementia situation, I would look at specialist facilities that had specialist dementia care programs. There's one in the local area that has actually won an award for their dementia care program. So, if you like, matching the facility to your concerns that you're dealing with, I think is another critical part of the process. And I think non-medical people possibly don't grasp how important that part of the process is. But at the end of the day, it's probably a subjective experience.
And it's always a good place to start.
I think so. And I think sometimes when you go to a facility, you get a general feel of the place and whether you might be happy there.
It's like buying a house. You've got to try before you buy.
Well, you need to check it out, I think. It can't be done over the internet.
Exactly. So what other things would you consider?
Well, I think cost is obviously a very big concern. If you're a government-funded person on an aged pension, then you'll have a much more restricted choice of facilities. And I think if you can pay a refundable accommodation deposit or a RAD, people are often afraid of that, but actually that gives you a much wider choice of facility than if you have to take a government-funded place. So I would definitely consider being able to pay a RAD as a very good thing. And whether to sell the home, to fund the RAD, they're individual considerations, and that's where the financial advice component is very important.
Okay, so what advice would you give to clients and families?
I would say get the ACAT assessment done and then hot-foot it to your specialist aged care financial advisor. It is a specialist area. Not all financial advisors are skilled in this area. I really got into this area because my clients were getting older and perhaps not making as good a choices as I thought could be made. And so I decided to expand into this area to benefit my own clients.
As you were saying to me before, you have an ageing client base and it was looking after their holistic financial needs.
Yes. I mean, one of my oldest clients is 94 now. And it was very important to me to assist them at that time of their life when they really needed assistance to be able to, if you like, continue our relationship to be of benefit to them in their evolving circumstances.
Right, well, that sounds all very well and good. Thank you very much for talking to me today, Katrina.
Thank you.